This video was voted by you guys on the poll a few days ago, so thank you guys for voting, and here it is, everything wrong with CinemaSins on WALL-E. The words movie sin counter aren't there for a few seconds.
In the future, you can train cockroaches to be like dogs. I can't wait to see the Sarah McLachlan commercials for these poor bastards.
I wouldn't say that this cockroach was trained, it just likes WALL-E and enjoys living with him.
How did this society so dependent on fossil fuel ultimately decide to put solar panels on something as small as a PA system? Or did the WALL-Es do that because they like the song so much? I'm sinning it either way, so take your pick.
Actually, you did make me think of something. We know that WALL-E is fascinated by humans since he listens to their music, collects artifacts, and even watches movies. So yeah, he likes the music and probably powered it. The more I think about it, that's an amazing detail that doesn't sound like a sin.
Filmmakers said, hey, let's take Johnny Five from Short Circuit and put him in a bleak future with no humans where he's stuck stacking up trash.
Arbitrary movie reference.
Robot main character rides by multiple dead copies of himself, leaving me to wonder why this one WALL-E was left alive after all the others failed. Was it his compassion for roaches?
Yeah, this is one of those things that's not really explained, but I don't think it's something that needs to be. I've seen a few fan theories around this, like maybe a glitch happened at some point causing this WALL-E to gain more sentience and care for himself, unlike these other ones.
Gotta say, the use of actual humans in this cartoon footage is a little unsettling. It's not like we see actual humans later when WALL-E goes into space, so what's up with this?
Another one of those cases where you're criticizing an artistic choice. Feel like I'm repeating my Kung Fu Panda videos.
Pilot chart a course for non-stop entertainment, fine dining, and with our all-access hover chairs.
I mean, we hereby interrupt this largely dialogue-free movie opening to bring you a ton of dialogue-heavy exposition.
What's wrong with the movie explaining what's going on? Imagine how confused audiences would feel if we just saw WALL-E driving around and we'd be wondering if this really is Earth and where did the humans go?
Wow, look at all these human non-robot trinkets this asshole is stored up. This worker robot seems to have just enough personality to qualify as AI, basically. He has a favorite movie, obsesses about cleanliness, collects trinkets, and crushes on a girl robot. They should have called this movie AI and saved about 3 letters and a dash.
There's already a movie called AI that's freaking fantastic. Yes, Humblebee, it's on a schedule, just have to wait a couple of months.
I'm also compelled to ask how a robot so beholden to his programming that he's still compacting trash long after the other WALL-E units have broken down is still so free-thinking to have collections and favorite movie scenes and cockroach friends. Is this AI or is it a slave bot? You can't have it both ways, damn it.
Why wouldn't he? His directive is to clean up Earth, but now he can simply think for himself and do extra things during his free time. He probably sees it as a job where you work most of the day and then go to sleep during night.
Why doesn't he do this just before sundown? At least a little bit, so his morning routine isn't so full of I might actually die moments.
Because he forgot? Even though he's a robot, he's still not perfect.
When WALL-E runs over his pet cockroach, we can clearly hear crunching and cracking, yet it gets back up with no problem. Sorry kids, this cute roach is dead.
In a movie where a mega corporation sends hundreds of humans into space and stays there for 700 years, this cockroach surviving ain't a stretch.
Thankfully, this plant doesn't have deep roots, or else WALL-E would have just crushed humanity's chance at a new home. Also, luckily, WALL-E finds proof that the Earth can still grow plants just minutes before Eve shows up, a robot built to detect and report such things.
I could ask why you didn't send this plant for somehow growing in the middle of a dark space with no sunlight or water, but I feel like that might contradict my previous sin, so instead, I'll say both of these sins are basically, that's lucky. Like, okay, sure.
We find out later that this red light is from a spaceship that has many red lights, so how did this one escape and have a mind of its own?
Seriously? You really couldn't think of the obvious answer? Okay, let me spell it out for you. The ship was looking for a landing spot, and it's super high up, which is why the other red lights aren't close to where this one is.
How does he even know she's a girl robot?
This isn't entirely love at first sight, it's mostly just WALL-E admiring how pretty Eve looks. He's also really curious who she is, where she came from, and why she's here. It isn't until later while he's following her that he starts thinking about becoming her friend, taking inspiration from that movie he watches.
Eve shoots some sort of plasma ray that causes a mushroom cloud, and Wall-E survives it.
That's because Eve didn't destroy the entire thing, and Wall-E stood behind the part that wasn't destroyed.
I get the joke, cockroaches are unkillable, but where are the millions of other cockroaches if that's the case?
Probably hiding out in their own place.
Directive classified.
So the humans made the plant-seeking robot's mission classified, in case it encountered another robot? Aliens? I mean, this movie doesn't show us any aliens, so who did they think might even conceivably intercept this robot's objective maliciously?
I mean, they assumed Earth would be full of Wall-Es, so maybe they just didn't want Eve to share what her mission is. It's something that only concerns her.
Wall-E.
Roll credits.
Isn't that unfair since the title is referring to the main character? Maybe should have done the same for Aladdin, right?
This is funny, but we all know how Eve operates, and this singing bass and half of Wall-E's living space would surely be obliterated before Wall-E could stop her.
Eve can assume that this is Wall-E's home, and that shooting anything immediately would be a little rude.
There's no way on Earth, future or present, that she hit him hard enough to indent steel like this without also destroying him in the process. But whatever, good visual gag, y'all.
Sending something you like.
What the hell is this shit? This is basically the Benny and June of robot movies.
You don't like slapstick? Despite the last sin showing you like it? What's different about this?
Eve's up till now autonomous nature is completely overtaken by native programming once she sees a sign of life. Why was she ever autonomous in the first place?
Why would she need to be? As long as Eve knows she needs to find a sign of life, there's no reason for her not to be autonomous.
Wall-E finally goes off to work and stops waiting for Eve to come back online. How much you want to bet this is the exact same day the space humans come for Eve? God damn it!
Oh no, a coincidence! Because that's a problem for some reason.
Wall-E wastes a bunch of precious Eve-saving time driving back to show the cockroach where to stay.
You know he cares about him, right? And he doesn't want him going on this potentially dangerous mission, right?
Wall-E is addicted to alien robots.
Alien? Didn't humans make them?
This cleaning robot must completely immerse itself in 420 activities because it completely forgot about Wall-E after 10 seconds.
That's because Gopher arrived so he could scan all the Eves, Mo stood back, and probably thought Wall-E would be dealt with.
Wow.
So look, I agree that if a bunch of people from Earth, especially Americans, were shot into space and they were on permanent hold until Earth was habitable again, most of them would turn into these bunch of fat lazy assholes. But all of them? You know there would be at least 10% of the group annoyingly thin, jogging around the ship, eating vegan, and tracking kale everywhere.
Yeah, but after 700 years? I can imagine they'd say screw it at some point.
Are they saying this is how long they ran the ship? Because I don't care how good health advances got over the years, there's no way these people survive that long, unless they're constantly provided artificial hearts that can take the abuse.
Later we see the president of By and Large explain that being in space for so long might cause them to lose some bone mass, so I'd say that's part of helping them live a lot longer.
Home? We're going back?
If the evil ship's computer steering thing behind this guy is truly evil and trying to stop the return to Earth, as the rest of the movie will suggest, why does it even allow the captain to press the button and see this message in the first place?
I actually thought about that a while ago, though on this most recent rewatch, I considered that maybe that's just a part of their programming. They're still meant to report a positive finding to the captain, but they can still do the cover story where they convince him that maybe Eve's memory was faulty.
Operate Manuel.
Haha, but Fred Willard literally said manual twice during that presentation, including 1 second before you looked at the manual.
And yet you mispronounced Shuri's name multiple times despite hearing her name a lot. Yes, I'm still on to you about that.
Step 1. Voice command. Confirm acquisition.
Confirm acquisition.
Okay, so how are you reading this shit when you couldn't even pronounce Operation Manual just before this?
Step 1. Voice command. Confirm acquisition. Yeah, I have a feeling those are words he knows and would assuredly have said before. Honestly though, I'm not sure why he doesn't know the word operation.
Caution. Rogue robots.
Why would the robot security team bother to inform all the people about rogue robots when they can simply arrest them right now?
But what if they don't arrest them and they get on the loose? Better to be safe than sorry.
Instead of closing the pod door and making sure he stays on the pod, Eve turns around and glides towards some unseen control panel to ensure Wall-E escapes again.
You know the control panel is there to close the pod, right? Like, she's literally doing what you asked her to do.
What would happen to an Earth plant exposed to space? Dr. Tyson? Oh, snap, we got him for Interstellar, not this. Well, I'm sending it then. If humans choke and freeze to death in seconds, I'm guessing regular plants suffer some serious consequences that this movie is completely glossing over.
Okay, but you could have at least Googled it. I found an article that says they can only survive under specific circumstances, which could support your point, but Eve immediately puts the plant inside her, which helps sustain it and keep it alive.
Define hold down.
This guy's been researching Earth a few minutes and somehow ended up at Hoedown.
A few minutes? Judging by all that's been happening since we saw him say, define C, it's more likely been hours.
Security cam footage will now conveniently tell Eve what she should already know, that Wall-E loves her and sacrifices himself for her. Thank God for the kind of romantic comedy love-proof real-life humans never actually get.
Why would she already know? The whole point of Eve's character arc is that she follows her directive and doesn't pay attention to Wall-E's advances, only for her to then do the opposite by the end.
This asshole is such a slave to his cleaning program, it makes me wonder how Wall-E ever fell in love with Eve instead of just ignoring her to do his program task.
Not capitalizing all the letters of Eve here.
I insist you give me the plan.
Discount homage HAL 9000.
Well, which is it? Is he discount Hal or an homage? And you're the same guy who said this movie can't have it both ways with Wall-E's AI and program following.
Also, this A113 directive is such that it makes you wonder why the computer-controlled ship even bothered to continue dropping off Eves on Earth if the directive could never be broken.
Again, it's probably just their programming to continue doing that, but then they need to get rid of the planet if it ever comes back.
That's an order!
Aye, sir.
So this proves the captain can order Otto to do his bidding, yet Otto will still represent a significant threat throughout the rest of this movie, because reasons.
Otto most likely hoped that the captain would agree with him that they should never return to Earth because they were told to do that. Once he sees that he's unwilling to comply, he starts taking matters into his own hands.
Eva?
Wally!
Movie steals 90% of its dialogue template from Titanic.
Arbitrary movie reference.
Wall-E rips off the 0-point energy from The Incredibles.
But didn't Pixar also make The Incredibles? How's this a ripoff?
Villain makes classic stupid-ass mistake of sending his nemesis and said nemesis' helper to the same place.
To be fair, he almost killed Wall-E, deactivated Eve, and sent them into the waste section where Wall-E's will eject them into space. It was extremely lucky that there were tiny mouse robots around to turn Eve back on. Wait a minute, did Endgame steal from this?
Mo blocks the doors ex machina.
First of all, that's not how you spell Mo. And second of all, this isn't a Deus Ex Machina, since Mo has been following Wall-E's tracks all movie.
Why can't the guard robot use the same death grip ray on Eve that it's using on this other robot?
Because it's occupied? Do you think this thing has 2 rays?
The captain smartly retrieves the image of Wall-E and the plant, so he can trick the evil robot into thinking he has it. Problem is, the captain didn't see this part of the transmission, because Eve was alone when that image came up, so he shouldn't even know this exists.
I was almost willing to give you this, but then I thought about it and realized that the captain probably just looked through the recording to find where Eve found a plant and then found this particular shot with Wall-E holding it.
Now the movie's stealing the ending of Titanic.
At least no one dies, like most did in Titanic.
You may have forgotten by this point, due to all the adventure and action that has occurred since we last really saw him, that Wall-E can barely move because a motherboard inside him is damaged. But I guess the power of robo-owners can give you strength in certain situations.
Jeremy says robo-owners.
10 seconds to hyperjump.
This ship decides it can go into hyperjump 10 seconds after a plant gets inserted into a thing. Doesn't it need to worry about safety?
The AI assumed that all the humans were still sitting in their chairs with their helmets on. It didn't know they fell out.
Tiny electrical spark will somehow return Wall-E's memory loss, because that's how electronics work.
Will somehow return Wall-E's memory loss? What?
When Wall-E appears for a mini end credit sequence, he changes the Pixar lamp's light bulb, replacing it with the CFL bulb to be more environmentally friendly. But when Pixar returns next year with Toy Story 3, that asshole has his old environmentally wasteful bulb back in.
2 sins, one for sinning this really funny gag, and another for saying Toy Story 3 came out the next year. Wall-E came out in 2008, and Toy Story 3 was released 2 years later in 2010. Up came out in between, so you really should have double-checked that. Similar to this entire channel.